All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Another day in my RPG game development. So today, before we start, I actually have something special to do that is not related to my game. So, kind of a lie there. But, let's talk about that real quick, because I got a little story for you. So, my girlfriend and I, we recently have been playing Archipelago, which is a multi-world randomizer. You basically select games on your own. You can play the same game, different games, doesn't matter. And the games are randomized. So each game has its own rules for randomizer. And in a randomizer, the goal is you have certain items you have to collect, and that lets you progress to other places to do more things. So maybe in an RPG game, right? Usually you have to like complete a certain event, or you have to have certain items to progress in the game. So that's a very easy way to understand it. Same with like a Metroidvania. You can only access certain stages or certain platforms when you have the right items and tools. For other games, it's a bit more obscure. Like, for example, I chose Yoshi's Island for our test Archipelago run we did. And in Yoshi's Island, what they did is you start in World 1, you get access to the entire level list of World 1, and Yoshi has a very limited amount of abilities. And then you unlock more abilities, like you can hold more eggs, certain items in the game won't work, like you can't access beanstalks, you can't access spring balls, certain types of eggs do not work. And all these things add up to you can only do certain stages at certain points in the game. So that's kind of fun in that you have to like unlock the game, so to speak. And the way you put it together and why it's a multi-world is because you can unlock things for your teammates, and your teammates can unlock things for your game. So it's not just you beat a level, you get stuff for you, sometimes you get stuff for other people. The reason why I'm telling this story is because we recently tried one, and unfortunately, silly me, I opened up the server in a temporary zip file. So the way Archipelago works is that it generates a game for you. So actually, let me go back a little bit here, and it generates a set of files for you, so you can run the server and you can run each individual client for every player that's playing. And that's great and all, except I ran it in this zip file. So what ended up happening, and I'll show you real quick, this is where we start getting a little more technical, is the logs tell us, if I go here, in the server log file, that at some point, this is after we were done playing, no such file or directory, and it was in this temp folder, and you can see in the temp directory it used a .zip to indicate, hey, this was a temp directory generated for a .zip file. What your computer does is if you try to access something in a zip file, obviously it's not on your computer, it's zipped up, so it can't really do anything in terms of permanent like file storage. So instead it creates something in the temp folder. As mostly Linux programmers know, things in the temp folder don't last very long. They're very, very temporary. And the same goes for Windows. And so in this case, once I closed the zip folder, like I literally had it open because then I could actually run stuff. Once I went back, or I closed the window, Windows just forgets this temporary folder even exists. So this is why I was starting to get these errors. And this was fine, I didn't really care because the state of the server was maintained, right? So I was cool with this, I was fine. Hi there, I followed you a few days ago and it's the first time I got to you online. Hi, welcome. Nice to see you, Bernerenko. Sorry if I can't pronounce that well, but welcome, welcome. Thank you for catching me today. So yes, one thing I didn't realize is I thought in the Archipelago documentation, when I originally set all this up, if I quickly go here, and we go to... Let's go to the setup guide for it. I initially thought that the game was going to auto-save. And so I'm like, oh, that would make sense, right? Here, server and client commands. One of them is a save command, and I thought, oh, maybe I have to actually save the game or save our session. But according to this, it says under the save command, saves the state of the current multi-world. Note that the server auto-saves on a minute basis. So I thought, oh, okay, maybe it auto-saved our game. It did, but not to any permanent place, only the temporary directory, which is why Python was spitting out all these errors later. Are you using Emacs? No, this is just Windows 11. Normal Windows Manager. Windows Desktop Manager. And this is Notepad. So Notepad, I use Visual Studio for coding, so yeah. I just have this open right now because we were looking at a text file. So oh, thank you. Yeah, it's just themed and everything. I made the Visual Studio all nice, so when we start coding in here, it looks all pretty, which is great. That's what we love. Makes it easy to code. So I thought this was auto-saving, but it was auto-saving to a temporary directory. So now you might be able to guess what the issue is I don't have access to this temporary save file anymore, so technically all of our progress is lost. Or is it? So the next thing I did, naturally, was I left the clients open on our other computers, and the clients actually tell you what you receive and what you send to other players. So I put one of the logs from one of our other computers that we did the Archipelago run on. So here's a sample output file so you all can see what that looks like. So in here, it has some initialization stuff, that's whatever, but we go down to the meat of it when we actually start playing. And these IPs are all local networks, so you're not getting anything from looking at these IP addresses, other than what my local network looks like. So here, you can see that there's actually information about what we did. So Stinky is the username of my girlfriend that played with me, and Ame was myself. And you can see these messages pop up that said, Stinky sent World 5 Gate to Ame. Stinky found nuts. Ame sent Chucklebean to Stinky. Stinky was playing Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. So, naturally, stuff like Chucklebeans are going to be pretty common because there's a bunch of them in that game. And I'm like, okay, can I use this log to somehow restore the state of our Archipelago run? Because technically, with the server, there are / commands you can use to give players items. You can like cheat them in if you have to, right? So I was thinking maybe we can programmatically find a way to use the output of this log to restore our game to what it was before. So that's kind of the first programming project we're going to do today. It's just a little fun side project. This would be your typical, like, parsing a file, trying to extract certain pieces of data from it, because you can see it's got a whole bunch of junk we don't care about, and then turning it into, in this case, viable / commands that we can just paste into here and restore the state of our Archipelago run to how it was when we stopped playing the other night. So we're basically trying to make a tool to recover the state of our game to where it was originally. So I thought it was a fun little project that I could also share online, so you all could also see like how I go about the process of coding these little tools when they come up. This is a programming problem, or that a problem that can be solved using automation and programming, so I thought it would be very fun to try and apply today. And you all get to see kind of how I use computers, and why I find programming so fun is it allows you to solve problems like this in a very easy way. Because we could go through and we could be like, okay, copy paste this, reformat it the way it wants to be into a / command, type it in, copy the next one, type it in. There are over like 300 of these. We found like, I think 200 or 300 of these the other day. It's not too bad. Like, we could do it manually. It'll take a couple hours. I do not want to sit here copy pasting this for hours. So that's why we're resorting to this. It's a fun little project. Plus, it's just fun to program, right? It's fun to make these things work. It might be a useful tool for the future too. What if this happens again? What if I do this again by accident? It's entirely possible that we might have to do this again. So, let's look over here. It's kind of hard to read because my terminal has background, but basically, one of the commands is called /send_location. So where does this come from? How do we know what this is? Well, if we go back to Archipelago, every time you generate a multi-world, in the output, it will give you a spoilers file. Now, this spoilers file tells you a lot of information about about where everything is located. So I'm not really gonna cheat it here because I'm not really cheating here because this is just the first few locations in the game. It doesn't really tell me much, and it's a good way to get an example of what we are expecting to do. So the places these locations are coming from are from right here. Everything before the colon is a location name. So you can see over here when I typed in /send_location AME. AME is the person I want to send, or I want to basically make this location as already checked. And then I put in the location name, which is exactly what that was called. It was called make eggs, throw eggs, level clear, space, in parentheses, AME. That is the location name. It is unique. That way, if another person was also playing Yoshi's Island, it would be the same thing, except the username here at the end would be different. That's how you can make sure that each one is unique. Each location name is unique. So, as we look here, /send_location sends out an item from a player's location as though they checked it. So basically, by sending a bunch of these commands, we can make our Archipelago game to the same state it was at when we stopped playing. That is the objective today. So, I don't expect this project to take too long. It's basic text file parsing. We do this a lot, but we're going to go through the entire process. As I like to do with all my projects, I like to host them on a repository online. So normally I do all my projects through Git, because Git is a very good way to manage your source code to make sure you don't lose any changes and to keep track of changes, and it helps with versioning too. If I have a backup on my computer and I somehow lose that, I don't want that to be the only source of where that program ever exists. I want my source code to be available online as a good backup solution. So I'm going to be calling this the Archipelago Save Recovery program. So this is Archipelago Save Recovery. I think that's a good name for it. And I can type in a short description. By the way, my girlfriend got me a wonderful new keyboard for my birthday. It's a small Turtle Beach Vulcan TKL. It's just very pretty. It's very nice to use. I have long nails, so it makes it very easy to type on. It's very important to have a keyboard that's easy to type on as a programmer, especially if I have long nails, because, yeah, it's kind of hard to type with these things. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So, this restores an Archipelago playthrough. By reading a client's log file. That is how we're going to restore the state of our Archipelago playthrough. Everything else can remain the same, and I can go ahead and create the repository. This is my own private Git repo, hosted on my own server. However, it's pretty much the same process if you want to use like GitHub or GitLab, or any place where you host your Git repositories. It's the same process. So we're gonna go to clone a repository. It's an empty repository, so cloning is as simple as just cloning nothing. And then now that it's cloned, we can begin by starting a brand new Visual Studio project. So I'm gonna start with the very empty project. We're gonna call it, again, the Archipelago. Let me just name it the same thing, Archipelago Save Recovery. I think it's nice to be able to show how I do projects from scratch. Sometimes people get confused when things are when starting out, like how did I even get to this point, right? When I'm just in the middle of some already established project, so it's nice to see everything from the beginning. I am placing the solution and project in the same directory because by default Git will automatically make a folder named after my project, so I'm pretty much good to go there. If I didn't have this checked, then it would be j/source/journey through space, or excuse me, I don't want it to be journey through space, sorry. Let me change that real quick, because we just pulled this from the repo. You can see here Archipelago Save Recovery. I'm gonna do it like that. So if I didn't have this box checked, you can see project will be created in JSource Archipelago Save Recovery /Archipelago Save Recovery /Archipelago Save Recovery. It would be triple the folders I would actually want. So here it's just gonna be in JSource Archipelago Save Recovery. That's where the main Git repo goes, and then /Archipelago Save Recovery. That's where the Visual Studio project goes. So in this case, I want it to be like that. Visual Studio is going to create all this nonsense here to begin with. This is just all the Git changes. We need to create a Git ignore to get rid of most of this because most of this is not relevant to us. So I like to go straight to, if you just type Git ignore in your favorite search, you can go to, I think it's called TopTal. But you can also go here. There's literally a GitHub repo called Git Ignore with a collection of useful GitHub templates. In this case, we're interested in the one for Visual Studio. I think it's just under MSVC, but I could be wrong. No. Visual Studio. There it is. So this just gives you all the common things you might want for Visual Studio itself. Now it doesn't give anything specific to C++, so if I wanted that, then I have to go into the language specifics. So they have it split by, first by the IDE, and then if you go to global, you'll be able to find one specific to a language. So if I needed, oh, actually, here, this is just more. So again, this is one just generally for Windows. There's one for VS Code, Xcode, Sublime. We saw Emacs in there earlier. I think Community. Here we go. So Community has all your languages. So we would be interested in... I've done this before. I know I will find this. I don't think it's embedded. That's very, very specific languages. I don't see it though. It might just be under... I swore there was one for C++. Is it possible to game dev on Linux? Oh yeah. I used to actually. I stuck with the Visual Studio Code pretty religiously for quite a while. Eventually I just went back to Windows. It's whatever. It's whatever I have my hands on. Like, if there's a Windows USB drive right next to me to install, I'm literally gonna put it on my computer when I need to reinstall. If there is a Linux, Ubuntu, or Mint Linux drive next to me, I'm putting that on. I use whatever. You give me anything, I'll figure out how to make it work, you know? It's kind of like that. Like, I don't really care too much about the actual OS I'm working on. I can make it work. I think Visual Studio is very easy to set up. It does take a damn long time to download. Like, forever. Because you have to download so much, but it has everything kind of built in with Visual Studio Code. If you don't have your config files ready to go, or you don't know how to set them up, you have to download a lot of extensions, you have to do quite a bit of configuring, so... Windows, Visual Studio. Very easy. I don't like to use Visual Studio Code on Windows when I have access to Visual Studio. I think that's fair. So anyways, we're gonna be in Archipelago save recovery. I'm putting the git ignore in the top directory. So I'm gonna make sure to put a dot in front of .git ignore. We're gonna open it real quick. So you can actually see VS Code pops up for some of my my files. That's just, sometimes it's more convenient for me to do it that way. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this. Funny enough, it's got some VS Code stuff in here too. I'm gonna close that, and you can see almost everything went away for our git changes, which is good. This is going to be our initial commit. Before I actually commit this though, I'm gonna get my main file started as well. So I'm gonna go to source files. I'm gonna quickly insert a new CPP file. Just call it, I usually just like to name it after the project, although some people like to do main.cpp. Two very good introduction, or excuse me, entry point file example names. So I'm calling this archipelago save recovery.cpp, and I'm ready to do git changes. Let's do our hello world real quick, make sure everything's good. So I'm gonna include standard or excuse me, IOStream. I was thinking standard lib. I'm like, hold on, are we doing C? Here's our int main. We'll return our 0. We might return our 0 if I'm on the right line. I did just get a new keyboard, so it's gonna be a little tricky to type right now for me. I'm gonna turn on my keyviz as well. That might be handy later. Okay. Let me also get... I don't know if my overlay thing is on. I don't think it is. I know many years ago, people complained debuggers were bad on Linux, but I know people have worked on them since then. Yes, I specifically still use the CLI for debuggers a lot of times with GCC. That's a big one. It is very good, but it is a little hard to use on the CLI if you're not familiar with the commands, which I forget a lot, so it's usually a little slow going. But with Visual Studio, you can get the debugger to also be integrated with the IDE, so which is a lot better, because then you can breakpoint on lines, you can watch variables, you can type it all out on a visual interface. So Visual Studio Code is just absolutely fantastic and full of features as well for doing game dev on Linux, and I highly recommend it. Again, a little bit of setup though, you really have to baby it. Let me think. What was I gonna do? I was supposed to do something. Oh, yeah. Let me get that overlay going again. It's just something I like to have. Where is it? Hold on. Something's not right. There it is. Okay. That should pop up. Perfect. Almost perfect. Okay. I've been wanting to ask you for things for a while. No, feel free. Yeah. It's okay, because this is for everybody. Like, I'm just here doing my thing. Like, I'm on no like strict time schedule. I'm not getting paid to do this, so this is all hobby. This is all fun. And I enjoy talking to other folks that are also interested in programming as a hobby, or inspired programmers too. Programmers that are getting into it. I get a lot of folks that are planning to do it for a college course, or they're planning to get a job in it someday, so they're curious, how'd you get here? Why are you so good? Why can't I remember how to type anything? Why do I feel clueless when I open a blank file, right? How did you know to type all this? Blah, 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 right? It's like... all just comes with practice. So there's our hello world, very standard. Let me compile. And okay, so there's our basics. There's our hello world. Literally the first program you'll ever write. Okay, so that's good to go. Git project setup, initial commit. Alright, let's get started on the fun stuff. You've been to the field for 13 years, math heavy focused. Ooh, math is not my strong suit. I literally dropped out of calculus after I realized I don't really need this for game dev. Although I was really happy when I finally did trigonometry in high school, I didn't realize how fundamental it is to game dev, and it opened a door for me. I'm like, oh my god, everything makes sense now with trig. I work with Haskell, Julia, and LaTeX. Oh, cool. Yeah. Definitely need LaTeX if you're gonna do a lot of mathy stuff. Alright. So, here we go. First things first, we're gonna have to read in a file. To do that on C++, we're gonna need fstream. Stands for file stream, at least I hope it does, because that's what I believe. I'm going to include both input and output file stream, because I think what we're going to do is output all the commands to the resulting command line commands into a file. So let's examine a little closely what our file looks like. Not this one, this one. So, actually, how about let's just get this file read in first. Since we're going to be messing with this file, I'm not going to work on the main copy directly in case I overwrite it or delete it somehow. I'm going to copy over a copy to our working directory so that's easier to type out its path and to not modify the original. So I'm just going to grab this file. I'll probably rename it too, that's a little chunky. Put it in the same directory as my project. And let's just call it log.txt. Nice and easy. Back over here, we're going to go to standard ifstream, which is an input file stream. One of the constructors is a string to the input file. We're going to use a relative path because the working directory is exactly the same as the project when we run it here in Visual Studio. So it's going to read that file to continuously loop over and make sure we have valid data to read. Oh, this variable needs a name. I typically call it file. So while file has data to read, while file.good, we're just going to store our line in a string. So there is what's called standard get line. It comes bundled with the is that not right? Oh, I don't have strings yet, that's why. It comes bundled with strings if I include the string library. Yes. So we have standard get line. Standard get line requires a stream. That's not the stream, so file. And then an output variable. So in this case, we're going to output it to line. And then the line is going to be stored in the line variable. After that, for now, just to make sure it works, we're just going to output it straight to the console. Put an end line after each line. That way it looks pretty. And let's just run it, make sure it works. So you can see in the terminal that it has printed out the contents of the entire file. So now we have our file reading. We can go ahead and start working on the parsing. So, what are we parsing and how are we going to parse it? Two questions. So, we are interested in any line that we obtain an item for. How would we detect that? I guess we have to look for the word sent, because if something is sent, it means that I, as the person that was controlling my end of the client here, have sent a message to somebody else saying I unlocked something for them. Equally, I'm looking for the word received because that means I have received a new item from my girlfriend. So, we're gonna have to do this kind of back and forth. We're looking for the word sent and received. Also, there's this one where it just says my girlfriend, Stinky, has found their own item. So if somebody finds their own item, it doesn't even, it's not sent, it's not received, it's just they found it themselves. Equally, I think myself, I say the same thing. Let me see if I can find an example here. Where's the check where I don't send to Stinky? Here we go. So found. So it'll say found there, blah, 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 if it's for their own selves. So these are the 4 or 3 keywords we're going to be looking for in the file. To search for these words in the file, we can use the string's find command, which will return standard string npos when there is no valid item found. And I believe it's going to be a size t, because a size t can hold a very large value, and it's only positive, so it doesn't use any negatives. So size t pos, by default, let's actually set it to npos. So standard string comes with the npos constant, which denotes it's literally the max value of a size t, that this cannot be found. So by default, we didn't find anything. Equally, another shortcut, although a little more ambiguous, is to put -1 there, because -1 will be equal to that same value. But I like to put that there. It's more verbose. It makes it clear why we put -1. So let's start by looking for any of those keywords. I think we'll do each one separately. So let's start by looking for anything that was found. So there are 2 players here, Stinky found and Ame found. Now, I want to make this generic in that if we ever change the names of the players, or if we ever have more players, I don't want it to assume that Stinky and Ame are the only 2 players that will ever be in an archipelago run together. So we have to make this generic. So on top of knowing whether it was a send, a receive, or an individual find, we have to know whom that is involved with. So we got 2 parts there. Not only do we have to capture what the action is, but we have to capture who this action is for. Can you briefly explain the whole project you are working on? Sure. So to give some context, this is Archipelago, or well, Archipelago is a program that my girlfriend and I were using where it essentially creates multi-world randomizers for your games. So this is the program. Somebody else made this, and basically Stinky and I are playing 2 different games, but they are randomized. All the objectives and items are randomized. They are randomized using logic, so you're supposed to find them in a specific order. And the randomizer then takes that logic and then also connects it between other people. So I could find like a key that my girlfriend needs, and my girlfriend might be able to find the jump ability I need to complete a level. So this is what this project does now, or this is what this project is about. But the reason why I need this is because I was running a server, but I did something stupid. I was running this server using a file located in a zip file. So you might be able to guess what this has to do with that. So I literally started the server in here. This isn't a zip file, so it doesn't exist unzipped on my computer, right? It does now, but that's after the fact. So I ran the server, everything was fine, everything was great, right? While we were playing. It was saving our stats and our state of a game to a temporary directory. Because it's a zip file. In Windows land, it's going to unzip to a temporary folder, place everything there for a while. Then when it's done, it's going to nuke it, right? So we were done, everything was fine. My computer rebooted at some point. I didn't expect this. Computer just decided to update. So temp save file is now gone, servers reset, blah blah blah. I basically lost my data. So what this project is about is, okay, well, I still have the logs of the client that tells us what we did to get to the state we were at before this event occurred. So in the future, like you can see here, I actually properly saved it in this local file, I started a new instance of the server. We're basically going to create something to recover the state of our game to where it was at, but we're going to automate it because this log file has a lot of things we sent and received from each other. And so because of that, I don't want to type them all out manually. So there's a command here called /send_location where it sends out an item from a player's location as though they checked it. So we are now parsing this file such that we can generate the commands needed to successfully get the state of a brand new version of the server with a brand new save file to the same state it was at before we stopped playing and that incident occurred. So this project is being born out of my stupidity for running a server from a zip file. Yes, essentially I am. So that is the project for today. Fun. So I will be working on my game after this. This is just something that came up out of nowhere. It's quite unfortunate, but I figured this would also be a fun way to show folks who might be a little more on the earlier side of their programming journey, kinda what gets you to this point. How do you get from idea to finished product? And what I do on a day-to-day basis when I run into problems. I use computer programming to help me solve my problems. So it's all fun. This is kind of the same process I would go through if I had something repetitive or problematic at work that I needed solving as well. This is like one of the most common scenarios, right? You have some kind of text file, some kind of log, and you need to get certain data out of it, and you need to do something with it. This is a very, very common problem in computer programming. I do not work as a dev. This is all strictly hobby dev. It's a lot of fun though. Very, very fun. I've been doing it for a long time, so self-taught. Let's start with one of our first keywords, which is found. So we're gonna say if line.find, we're looking for the word found. So it's looking for a string. Now what happens if a user names themselves found? Is this gonna trigger false positives? I would imagine it would. So how would we prevent that? We can either assume that nobody's gonna name themselves the word found. We could check if there are multiples and only accept the second one if there are more than one. But what if they name themselves found? What if it's found arrow wheel? Let's just assume this edge case will be ignored for now. In programming, there will always be lots of edge cases. You have to choose whether it's worth it to pursue the problem or choose to ignore it. If you choose to ignore it, you also decide to live with the consequences of it later, if it ever pops up. So hopefully nobody ever names themselves found if they ever choose to use this tool, because it will not work right. You do a lot of bash scripting? Ooh, yes, bash scripting is good to learn, especially if you're gonna work in Linux a lot. One thing my job has that's similar to game dev is heavy geometry. Ah, yes. It's probably the closest you'll get to game dev in a job environment, right? Other than game dev itself. So yeah. Anyways, we're looking for this word, found, and we're going to see, so it's either going to return the index at which this word starts at, or it's going to return endpause. So if line.find, and we're also going to set it to pause itself. So we're going to do this, kind of this like set and also check at the same time. I just need to check for precedence real quick. So if you're ever doing this without parentheses, which is usually bad practice, then you need to make sure operator precedence is in your favor. So assignment. Assignment is down here as precedence number 16 for C++. So that means not equal to a comparison would happen right here, number 10. Not equal to will happen before assignment, which means to make this line work right, I want to assign it before checking the value. Also, I have these two flipped. So first assign, then check if it's not equal to, and pause. Also, it's a bit cloudy today, so it's getting a little dark. Where'd my... oh. We'll leave it like that for now. It's just getting noticeably darker. Okay. So this means this line indicates that it's something found for the person that is mentioned right before the word found. So how we can do this is we backtrack to... we're basically going to find the first space after the colon. So we look for a colon, then after that is a word. The word is the name of the player. Unless the name of the player is two words. We're also going to ignore that for now. We're going to assume every player uses one word for their name. Alternatively, we could just... let's think of it this way. Let's substring everything from after the space to the beginning of the found token we got. That way we actually capture their entire name. I actually like that better. That makes sense. That would get their entire name. We can just subtract one naturally for the space. So that's going to be what we do. So let's first look for the colon. So we can actually get that earlier on. That way this is a little less confusing. So const size t colon separator is going to be... also try to keep your variable names descriptive, because otherwise you'll get very confused real quick if you use like X's, Y's, I's, Z's, J's, right? It can get very confusing, especially when you have a bunch of markers very quick. So the colon separator is located by doing line.find and finding a colon. So that's the position of the colon separator. We are going to naively assume it's always there. We could make a check that says, hey, if it's equal to npause, we should crash. That would indicate there's an error. And maybe we should, right? Like, who's to say that something bad is not going to happen? We should probably make sure nothing happens here. What if there's a line without a colon before this? Does that exist? Yes. It's possible for command outputs to just have absolutely nothing. So you can see here, sometimes it's going to output nothing like that, which means we have to handle that as well. So we don't want to crash, we just want to assume that nothing happens here. So if colon separator is equal to this, we can actually just go to the next line. We don't even have to deal with anything. So this is already in a while loop, so we just hit continue here, and it'll continue to try again. Since we're still reading from a file, every time at the very beginning, it'll keep cycling through. We're not going to get stuck in an infinite loop here. So, back down here in found, we're now going to search for the name. So, we'll extract the name. I will also make this const, because it shouldn't change. So to get the name, we're going to start from the colon separator -1, or +1, excuse me. We're going to do line.substring. So substring requires a starting index. In this case, it's going to be colon separator +1 to get the space as well. And then the length of the string, which is going to be the position of found minus the position of the next, or excuse me. So the position of the colon separator +1 subtracted by the position of the found token. So position minus this. That is the length of how much we have to chop off. to obtain the name of the player. Hi there, I hope you're having a nice day. I hope you are too. Thank you. EA, EAAA, EAEE. Is that a color? That doesn't look like... That's too many hex values for a color. Or it's like RGB super exclusive color alpha or something. But yes. EA Sports. Okay, fair. But yes, welcome. Thank you. I hope you're also having a great day. So to see if this name output works, we're just gonna... Let's breakpoint here, and let's hit a few. See what it's like. So we're in debug mode right now. I just put breakpoint, nothing happened. Well, that's promising, isn't it? Well, did it not find this is the question. Because surely we're running. Okay, so we are running. Let's just put the value of colon separator here. Let's run the line. Not 25, okay. So that line should hit. So it becomes a matter of, does this line have any colons in it? So in this case, this one did. Is this not a colon? That's my next question. Maybe we think it's a colon, but it's actually some other character, right? No, that looks like a colon to me. In fact, it's fine. Oh wait, it wouldn't be the colon, it would be the word found. Well, let's see here. Is it not found? I'm pretty sure it's called found. So Ame found their magnifying glass. Okay, well, let's look at this one more time. Did I mess up the logic? Pause becomes equals to line.find. As far as I know, this will return whatever the assignment is. So making sure it's not equal to end pause. So we're looking for an assignment on pause that will change that. So maybe I'm gonna go here. So let's look for a line that passes the colon test. And then we're looking for the word found. So clearly not that one, clearly not that one. We're just gonna go a little bit until we're at a point where we know we're gonna get a line where it actually happens. So this is that giant slash command. I'm gonna skip a little bit more. Here we go. So let's see. So now we're at some relevant stuff. So actually I just found one. Let me go to one more. Okay, so clearly this string should have the word found in it. And we are down here, so we're looking at what line.find returns. Oh, so we're actually in here. Oh, there's just no executable code here. I'm dumb. Okay, so that was working. I need some kind of executable code to actually break at this line. So sometimes I like to just insert some dummy code here. And that will at least, well, I was gonna put like blank. That way it actually runs. And now we actually stop here. Okay, so name, we can actually look at that value now. And clearly that doesn't look right. But also, this isn't supposed to be, so you can see here it kind of worked, but kind of didn't. I hate coding. Do you like it, or is it more like a necessary evil to make your fans? No. I love coding. I've been doing it for about 20 years. A little more than 20 years. So yeah. I just love doing it. It's my passion. Do I use any AI or auto-completion? I just use the auto-completion from Visual Studio, but I don't use any AI for coding. I know some people do, and it helps speed up like templates and building out things that are simple. So Oh no, I just never bothered to. I like typing out my code exactly how I envision it, so I think it's part of the fun. But yeah, I enjoy the coding so much. The coding is the part that I excel in for making my game. Not so much the graphics or music. So I usually need help in that department. You like typing too? Yeah, I agree. And I like the problem-solving aspect of AI, so I wouldn't use it really to problem-solve either, as the best part about programming is the problem-solving. Once you have to just type out all the code and you already know what to do, that's actually kind of the boring part. The fun part is figuring out how to solve the problem, like we're doing today. That's the fun part. I could literally just go to an AI bot and be like, hey, I need to parse blah 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 from a string. I'm sure it can do that very easily. That's like a super simple task. I want to actually solve the problem. That's the fun part to me. Once the problem's been solved, the rest of the program is boring. Like, I'll be honest, when I'm working on my game, right now we're doing all the content for the game. Most of the game's engine is done. So it's not actually as exciting as it used to be because we just have to put in more monsters, more maps, more bosses, more music, more story, more items. It's like, there's no more programming involved in that. Most of that is already done. Every once in a while, it's like, oh, this item has a very unique mechanic, you have to go program that. Okay, cool. I will go program a brand new system just for that. That's fun. That's the part I love about programming, right? Okay. So we're back here. It didn't quite give what I needed, and we need to figure out why. So this is supposed to be the offset colon separator +1. Is there another colon I'm not accounting for? Maybe I messed up, right? So let's look at this one more time. Oh, there's colon in between each of the timestamps. So the timestamps are always going to be colon or hour, colon minute, colon second, and then there's a comma for the milliseconds. So we need to account for 2 colons, and then the third one is the one that's actually the colon separator. So I'm gonna do line.find, but multiple times. So we need to line.find using whatever the offset is from there. Do we want to hard code it, is the question. Can we assume, let's see, that the colon will always be past a certain point? No. We have to do this 3 times, so, which is fine. Here's how we're gonna do that then. Colon separator starts with a value of 0. We're at the start of the string, essentially. I'm gonna get rid of the const, and then we're gonna do for. I'm gonna bring in my ranges library, because I like to use that for a for loop. It's a little more fancy and a little bit strange if you're not used to C++20. I'm gonna go to properties, but as someone who loves to code in C++, I feel like I am sometimes interested in trying things out in new ways, just to see if I like it, and sometimes I end up liking it, so then I stick to those ways. So a for loop in a more modern C++ way might be to do it by doing standard ranges iota view from 0 to whatever value. In this case, we're going from 0 to 3. We need to do it 3 times. So it's a little weird. It's definitely strange compared to just doing for int I 0, I is less than 3, I++. But it's kind of a more modern C++ approach to doing it, and I've kind of taken to liking it, so I've been doing it lately. Whatever works. So in here, we're going to be, again, doing colon separator equals line.5 with an offset, a search offset from colon separator. So as we keep finding colons, it's going to start from that position next time. I'm going to do colon separator +1. That way we're 1 ahead the next time. it's not going to start finding colons from the previous one. So like, for example, first it's going to find this colon, then the next time it's going to start from this position to find another colon. So that's what the loop is for. And then it's going to find that one, and then it's going to start from here, and then it's going to find the last colon like that. Also, some folks might be keen enough to point out that you could also use regex for this. And as easy as regex sometimes makes text parsing, it also is very alien. So I also am not a big fan of regex, especially if it's code I am parsing code I'm writing myself. If there's regex in another program, by all means, you do you, girl. But here, yeah, I'm gonna write it out in actual code, because to me it makes more sense. So now the name should be properly parsed. Let's try that again. Hi there, Adrian. Welcome, welcome. Alright, so that one's fine. It looks like we got an extra space before and after though, so let's see. But you can see we actually got the name now, so we just have to make sure we get rid of the spaces before and after. We could trim it, but we could also just parse it correctly to begin with. So the substring should be from the colon separator +2 to pause minus the colon separator +1 -1. So let's try one more time. How's the letters and numbers? They're going. They're going pretty well. Also have to do -2 now because the offset was moved over by another one. So it's actually -2 instead of -1 to remove 1. So you can see here, that one's properly parsed. We go here, stinky, 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 Ame. So it's properly parsing the name after finding out what the verb is, and the verb is right there. Or, well, that's the position of the verb. So I guess what we could do is we could also put in a string what the verb is afterwards, but we kind of know from this, so that's all we care about. So that's one. We also got 2 more possible states, right? So the other two words are, we have sent and we have received. Let me see. So yes, there is sent and there is received. So let's start with sent. That one's a little easier. I'm debating if I should go to class or not. It's English 2. Go class. You have to go to your classes. Don't ditch. Come on, be a good student now. But like, I don't wanna. Think anybody wants to? Right? Okay, so for sent, it's very similar. It's going to have the name of the person sending. And so we're going to be parsing for that. So it should work very much the same way. I don't even have to change the code. Excuse me. Oh. Let's just make sure it works. So for sent, Stinky sent arrow wheel, and Stinky is the parsed name. So that worked. Now we're going to look at the last one. The last one's a little unique because the first word is received with the capital R, but then it tells you what the item is, followed by from whom. So we're only interested in received because that means it's for us. But who are we? We don't know who we are, right? How do we know what file, what user this file is for? We don't actually know right off the bat, so we have to look. Does this file tell us who we are? So if we look up here, after we're connected, there's a line that eventually says, Ame, playing Yoshi's Island, has joined. Now this could be anybody, but we know this client connected with that particular name. I don't see any earlier instance of that, so let me just double check. But we can assume, or safely assume, right? That after the greeting information, like after connected, the next X amount of messages will be relevant to us, including the name. So that's what we're interested in. So do we have an instance where Stinky joined? Let me see. I don't think so. I think Stinky was in the room beforehand, but I assume that right after connected, we're looking for something with a name. Preferably with like, I guess the way to put it would be we go from client to a file log. That would be the easiest way to detect it, right? So let's go for that. First, let's look for a line by client, like it starts with client and then has the word connected in it. Ugh, fine, I'll go to class. Good, go to class. No. Just go to class. No round one. No. No round one. Just go to class. Silly. Okay, so we do this at the very beginning. We're looking for a line that starts with client. That's the first indicator. So if line, there is a starts with function, so that makes this very easy. Any lines that have this in it, we're interested in. We're interested in seeing for a line that has connected in it. We also only do this if we don't have a known client name yet. Like at 7? Oh, okay, yeah. Go after, that's fine. That'll be very fun. So, standard string client name. We're gonna start it as blank. If we don't find a client name, by the way, then we know that, well, we know that we couldn't find it, so that'll be a problem, right? I did something. My hair's being funny. I like it parted that way better. There. Just feels better that way. Okay. Anyway. I think we're gonna add an error here, though. If we can't find a client name, we're in trouble. You want long hair? Yeah. It's very nice. It's just maintaining it that's kind of a pain, but naturally. Also, playing with it can be tricky too. I like playing DDR with it down, but sometimes it just gets in my face and then I'm like, well, extra hard mode. So if client name is equal to blank, we're actually going to throw here new, or not new, throw unsupported. I think I have to include the error library to use this. Oh, maybe not. I think it's already included. I just have to... I think it's unsupported operation exception, or... I should be able to just do a very generic exception. I guess not. Let's go look. Exceptions. CPP ref. Memorize every single chart in the game, then you don't have to look. What a great idea. we're looking for, what's it called? Exceptions. Exceptions. Okay. Standard exception. Oh, it's probably under just standard library. That's probably why I'm having an issue. So standard runtime error. There we go. So construct one of these on the fly that just says client name was not found. And I'll just the throw will cause a crash right there. So you can leave it as it is like that. So if the line starts with client, we're looking for the word connected. So and line dot find the word connected. We can even say ends with, hold on, let's look at that. Can we just say ends with connected? Or do I have to say ends with connected new line character? I think the new line character gets abstracted out. So let's try ends with connected. That might be, oops, I didn't mean to compile yet. That might be what does it here. So connected. And if we find that, then that means we have to assign the next line we find that has the name, let's see here. It would be starting with file log. We're looking for the first file log will be the name of the player. And I guess we can look for has joined. Maybe that's a better way to search for it, right? Look for blah 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 has joined. That way we know for sure that this is a joining command. So we'll now say inside of here, we're gonna have yet another while loop. I'm actually gonna put this in a new scope too. That way we can use the same variables. The same variable names, but these names are now reassigned specifically in this scope. So they're only relevant in here and not outside of there. This just keeps things a little bit tidy in terms of I don't have to regenerate like a whole bunch of new variable names just for this, like inside underscore line or line 2. Like that could get messy, right? So I do actually, these are different. It might still complain about using the same variable name. So I might still have to do like line 2 here, which I'm fine with. Let's be a little messy for now. But I'm looking for the word joined. I'll include the period too. So if line 2, and the reason why we're in here is because now that we've found a connected, we know that at some point our client has connected this player to the Archipelago server. So if line 2 find joined with the period is not equal to standard string and pause, then we're going to assign the client name. How do we find the client name is the next question. So again, we have to parse 3 colons, and then everything up until this open parenthesis is what we're interested in. So we'll kind of do the same thing we did earlier. We'll have this like little for loop here with a colon separator variable. We'll say, okay, go until you find the colon, and then parse out the name, like so. So it's going to be colon separator plus 2, and then the position we want to end up in is wherever the open parenthesis is. So we're looking for an open parenthesis that starts from the colon separator +1, because after that is all the message. So we only care about that. I think this needs to be just a character if it's not... Wait. Standard find? Hold on. It's not standard find, it's line2.find. Standard find is something completely different. Okay, there we go. So that should give us the name. And then finally, we can say... I'm gonna do an empty output again, just so we can get a debug going here and see if we get there. So here, we just hit client name was not found. So we can see that didn't quite work. Why? I don't know why. Let's see. Well, if we find this, by the way, then we have to break out of this loop. So, break. Because we are done in here. It's just we're not entering this breakpoint, so we're not getting there. So something's not right. Do we at least get here? We should. We don't. Okay, that's surprising. So line doesn't end with connected. How about connected new line character? Nope. We're still not entering that if statement. Strange. Okay. Did I type it wrong? It literally just says connected. We know there's a new line character after... Oh, is there space? Is that space? No, that is a new line character. It might be a /r/n. Maybe. It's entirely possible. That's so strange. Okay. Well, worst case scenario, I can just say line.find. Apparently ends with is not quite working well here. Is not equal to standard string and pause. And that still doesn't work. I wonder why. Oh, I see. We're just throwing on the very first line of the program. Okay, yeah. We only care about this once we find one of these words. The moment we find one of these words, then we care about the client name throwing. So... how do we... It's like, okay, we're in a certain mode until we find a client name. So if client name is blank, keep going. Else... How about this? If client name is equal to blank, we're in the first mode, right? We're like searching for a client name, basically. Also, client name keeps getting reset. That needs to be out here, so it doesn't keep getting reset. But if client name is equal to blank, we're in this mode until we find one. I would say throw this runtime error out here if we're outside of the entire loop, like the file, and we never found a client name. Walk into your class now? Alright. Cool. Hopefully it's not that bad. Have a good time. It's gone bright again. Wish my camera would be nice to me. Can I do this? Nope. Definitely not. Oh, that's a lot better. Okay. Yeah. I'm just gonna leave it here, just in case. Might change it later. Cool. So... So the second mode is, okay, we found a client name. We can go ahead and do what our program is meant to do. But we need a client name from the very beginning, so that's what we're searching for. So now this should enter properly because we're actually searching through the loop constantly. Okay, good. And before we go on, I'm going to put down here if client name is equal to blank. That's when we throw, otherwise it's going to throw every time the program finishes. So I presume we can now get down here. And name is... What? Well, our name is definitely not Kane. So that's not right. Let's see, how did we do this? How did we end up with the word Kane? That's not even in this line. What line are we on? So Amy playing Yoshi's On has joined. Did I put line? I put line instead of line 2. Oops. Alright, so name is Amy. So that means that's the client name. So once we found that, we can set the client name and leave. Client name equals this string. And we're done there. So now that we have a client name, we know who is supposed to receive. And that's important because when it says received, we need to know who that's actually being given to. And relative to our client, received means us. So now we know who us is. And we can give ourselves the proper location. So now if we go down to received, oh, we still have to parse the name. That's not done yet. Do we care about whom it's from? We actually don't. We care about for sent because we have to know... Actually, hold on. Sent, received, these are the same things. I'm going to receive it myself. Sent to whom? Amy. So did I just mess up and not need that? I think I did. We only care about sent and received. Or, excuse me, sent and found. Found means they found it for their own selves, so we know who we're supposed to give it to. Sent means we check the person who it's being sent to, and that's the person the command is for. Also, I got caught talking with some random people. Well, hey, there you go. That's the fun of a college campus, right? You get to chat and talk to people. That's fun. Alright, so we found out we actually don't need received. Does that mean we don't even need client name? Did I do this for nothing? Sent, there's the name. Found, there's the name. We didn't need client name. Okay, good job. Yay us. But that does simplify our logic, so we will undo... Well, not undo, but we'll get rid of the stuff we don't need then. All the client name stuff is unnecessary. And we're back to this. So the keywords are found and sent. For sent, though, the name we are sending to is near the end. So it's right before this parenthesis. We can actually look for the word to indicate where we start. So we're looking for to and an open parenthesis. They were like, hi, are you interested in tech? Okay. Join us. Be a nerd. Be interested in tech. Alright, so sent blank to blank. So let's look for the word to. I will call this just the to separator, or to index. It's going to be a size T. To index. ITG Tech. I am not a big fan of ITG Tech. I'll be for real. I was looking at the Girlpocalypse tech chart, so it's not even tech. It's actually bracket spams. I hate that so many tech charters are using bracket as the main way to make charts technical. If that makes sense. I'd rather see crossovers. I'd rather see the fun little like I love the bracket holds. Bracket holds are very fun, but I don't like the brackets itself. So I like bracket holds. I think Wadatsumis are good. I think crossovers are good. I think the roll streams are good. Roll drills, I guess you can call them, are good. I just don't like that a lot of bracket tech, or a lot of ITG tech, is bracket spam. Like, I don't mind it on a good beat, like boom boom. You can get like a good bracket section out of it. Boom boom, boom boom. That's kind of fun. But then when the whole chart is literally just like dun 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 dun, and all of that is brackets, that's a problem. That to me is like, you literally need to find something else. And the reason why I'm so I have such a powerful feeling for that is because for Girlpocalypse this year, there's like 5 charts with bracket spam, and it's really bad, and I don't like it, and I don't want to do the Girlpocalypse tech round because of that. It needs to be tasteful. It needs to be tasteful. It doesn't need to be spammed. I promise the chart is good without the spam. Anyways, so this to word, let's do a lined up find for the word to from this position, because it's going to be after sent. So we can do this +1 is where we start, and we're looking for that. So we're starting from like this character, and we're looking for TO, which is over here. Now what happens if the word has the word, or if the item has the word to in it? That's a problem, isn't it? Like, we could just start from the end and work our way backwards to find to for the beginning, or the space. Again, a name with 2 words in it would be a problem. But if we can start, maybe we go find a parenthesis. I don't even think, I would hope no item name has parentheses in it, but if it does, that would mess up our parser too. Like, is there any way to really go around this other than... I guess there's not, because all we have is text to rely on. We're going to be making some assumptions, and we kind of have to. We kind of have our hands tied here. So we're going to assume, best case scenario, everybody has a 1-word name. Find the open parentheses at the end, the last one, and go backwards. And also hope there's no open parenthesis in the middle of a location name, which would also be a problem. Like, unless we knew what all the item names were to verify, like, to cross-reference, then we kind of have the item names, but then I would have to read in another file, make a list of valid item names, and then go from there. I don't know if it's that complicated. How about this? Let's look for all the instances of 2, right? Would this be a problem in here, at least? I don't think so. Oh, no, let's match case. That way we don't have that. Because if it's not a problem here, it's not an edge case I'm gonna worry about today. Okay, it doesn't look like it is, which is good news for us. So, let's just not worry about that. So find the word to, 3 letters after it is going to be the start of the name of the person we are sending it to. So the name is going to be from the to index plus 3. And we go until we find a open parenthesis. So from the to index plus 3, we're going to go until line.find open parenthesis, starting from the to index. Or, starting from the to index, subtract the found result from this position to get the name of the person we are sending it to. So let's take a look. Oh, we have an error, no matching token. I missed a parenthesis. Where did I miss the parenthesis? Line 6. Why is it not showing me that in my IDE? Hello? Line 6 is like up here. Oh wait, is it a brace? Oh, an open brace. Hold on. So I messed up something very early. Yeah, okay. Closing brace there. Curly brace. Okay, so we stopped here with the name of Ame. For the string, Stinky sent error wheel to Ame. So that's correct. And let's try one with the opposite. Ame sent Chucklebean to Stinky. Stinky is the receiver. Excellent. So now that we have that, we can now almost construct our command. The last thing we need is the location name. So for sent, the location name starts from that open parenthesis until the end parenthesis at the very end of the string. For found, it is the same thing. So now we have to get the location names for both of these. So let's start with found. After the found word, there's going to be a point where there's an open parenthesis. So let's go look for that, and that'll be the location name. So location. So now we're searching for, from found, find the open parenthesis. So again, line.substring, looking for open parenthesis, and we're gonna do line.find. If we find open parenthesis, we're going to do +1 as the offset, and it's starting from the pause +1, which is where the found token was. And then the count is from here. So that's this. And we're going to the end of the line -1. So I think there's a shorthand for this. I think it's just gonna be the line's length minus this -1, which is gonna cancel out the +1. So hopefully that gives us what we want. So that should be the location string. Let's take a look. Location string. Okay, that's not a valid line. Almost. We were close. Off by 1. Classic. So I'm going to subtract 1. And we have to do something about that SNES line. It's like, we only care about lines that say file log at the beginning. So let's do that. If not line starts with file log, then we just continue, because we don't care about it. It's not relevant. Okay, it still looks like it's not chopping off the last parenthesis. I'm not sure why. I think it's because I added one. Let's see, from the parenthesis, I added one. Okay, so I have to do -2 then. There we go. So the location of this string is Stardust Fields room 3 block. For this one, it's Stardust Fields room 4 block 3. And so on and so forth. Hop hop donut lifts : stars. So it is properly parsing. That's great. So now we have to get the location for the other one, which should be very, very similar. I think the only difference is where we look for this. Actually, even that's the same, because that has the sent keyword. So let's try that. For this one, send arrow wheel to Amy. Oh, hold on. Oh, yes, yes, that has the location. Yes. But hold on. Now I gotta think about this some more. So, it's supposed to be the person that is getting that location, not the person sending. So I had the name right the first time. So I have to back up a little bit. I do have to double back down and go back to what I originally had for name. Okay, because whoever is sending it, it's not who's receiving the item, it's who has achieved that location. So Amy doesn't have a location called Stardust Fields room 1 block 2. I can't assign that check to Amy. I assign it to Stinky, who then sends an arrow wheel over. I'm not trying to say who's sending the item, I'm trying to say who achieved at that location. So that's what should be matching up. Like, Amy has the Cave of Chomp Rock : stars, but does not have a location like Stardust Fields room 4 block 1. Likewise, with the found line, the found line is, okay, I found something at this location. So that's also my location. Amy and Stinky! Pog! Yes. Okay. So these are good now. Now we just have to generate the commands, and then we have to export them to a file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new file. So output file stream, call it commands, and we're just gonna make it commands.out. So that's gonna be the name of the file we're writing. And we're gonna then go down here, because it's a file stream, so we can literally pipe stuff using the, what do you call them? The less than and greater than, double less than, double greater than operators. So the commands for Archipelago, that's not what I wanted, is /send _ location, name of the user we are clearing that location for, and then the location name, to include their username. So on top of whatever we have here for the location name, so like say it's touch fuzzy get dizzy : level clear, we're gonna add after it a space followed by open parenthesis, name of the person that the location check is for, and then close parenthesis. We have that information, so we can do that. I think we are, yeah, so we can do commands pipe. So we're going to do /send _ location. space. I could also use standard format for this. I kind of like that more. I do really like standard format. And standard format, I think, comes from formatter. Oh, just format. So standard format /7 location, variable 1, space, variable 2, space, open parenthesis, variable 3. See how much simpler that would be? We can also use the brand new, I think it's in C++20 as well, it's print line. That would be even better. Standard, : print line. Oh no, I think it's even newer than C++20. It must be 23. So I'm gonna go to 23 preview. Yes, standard print line is, I guess, 23. Ooh, even newer C++. So, /send location. The variables we are going to... Oh, and we have to provide the stream. In this case, it's going to be standard or commands. That's our output file stream. Hi there, System Crash. Yes, I do game dev. Right now we're on a very quick side project just for today because something happened, but normally we're on game dev and it's a lot of fun, for sure. Now you know. So, let's send location. So the first option is the name, or the first argument. The second argument is the location name. The third argument is name again. And that should be our print line command going into our commands file. Do that for both, and then we're done. So let's go ahead and just run the file and see what commands.out has in store for us. So it should have generated a commands.out file with that program. So let's take a look at Archipelago Save Recovery commands.out. It's 4 kilobytes, so that's promising. Okay, excellent. So this basically generated all the commands needed to restore our Archipelago run back to the state it was at when we were playing it. Great. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to copy all these. I'm going to go to our Archipelago server, which is still running. I'm just going to paste these in. Okay. Let's see what happened. So, it seems to be complaining about some. So, too many close matches for Stardust Fields Room 1 Block 2 Stinky. Did you mean Stardust Fields Room 1 Block 2? Does it not have the... Interesting. Cave of Chomp Rock, :stars. That one worked. That was up here. Cave of Chomp Rock, :red coins. Stardust Fields, Room 1, Block 1. No. Why would it not know? Oh, it cut off the word block on that one, but why? Or maybe it didn't, and this is cut off because I copy-pasted a giant output. Does your girlfriend code too? She doesn't. She does graphic design. So, completely different. Didn't find something that closely matches Blizzard stars. Did you mean Blizzard stars ? So I guess this name thing isn't actually a part of it, and I just lucked out the very first time I did this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna close this server. I don't think it's saved yet. And I can restart it. It should draw out the server as it was before I did anything, and we can now experiment, right? Now begins the experimenting phase. Plus I could just delete it anyway and start it fresh if I needed to. Because if I go to here, this is the save file, so if I naturally deleted it, it would start fresh. So it looks like it loaded the save file with 26 received items for 2 players, so it looks like that did save. So I'm going to delete the save, and we're going to try it again. Because we're essentially starting from scratch anyways. So apparently, I think this output messes with it. Also, I don't know if maybe this didn't have a block. It's just like room 3 block. I think that's just a check. I don't think it's my parser's fault. Complimenting each other on your hobbies. Yeah. It's pretty nice. It's very adorable. So yeah, I guess we're gonna get rid of this and see what happens now. Because I suppose the parentheses is redundant because each player only has one set of locations. So that would make sense. So I'm gonna regenerate the command.out file without those names at the end of it. And then we're gonna just try, let's just try these 3 first. See what the server says about that. I deleted the save. So it's going to start fresh. So no save data, game data found. I'm just going to paste these in. So Stinky sent error wheel to AMA. Stinky sent world 5 gate to AMA. There should have been a third one. You have to press enter. Oh, there we go. Stinky sent nuts to Stinky. Which is fine because that's what it unlocks. So that looks good so far. So far it's working as intended. So I guess the next idea is to do all of them. And if we did it right, we should have 53 items total. Luckily, it tells us exactly how many items there are after we've done all this. So it looks like there was a bunch of output. It looks like it didn't complain this time about any of them. So I'm now going to close the server and restart the server. And loaded save file with 3 received items. Oh, I guess it didn't save after the initial 3. So let me type a /save. It's supposed to auto-save on its own. I guess it does. It only does it in intervals. So I saved. Close again. Reopen. Loaded save file with 53 received items for 2 players. So our Archipelago save file is now in the same state it was at when we first started playing originally, thanks to a small program I wrote to restore all that for us by parsing a log file from a client. So there's our little fun side activity accomplished for the day. So I'll go ahead and commit this to our Git repo. I'll go ahead and call this initial parser completed. Outputs a command file. And that's it. And now you all get to see what I tend to do when I run into a problem that can be solved with computer programming. Text and file parsing is some of the easiest and most common operations you will probably do in computer programming. It's a little boring, I will admit. It's not the most exciting thing compared to like building a game, but it's a very common thing you run into. For those of you that may have ever heard of or done Advent of Code, which happens during December, or if you ever do like any of those like coding problem websites, which I think a lot of people like overhype and recommend. Like, you hear from a lot of people, oh, go do a bunch of problems on a coding challenge website. It's like, that's great and all, but you need to solve real world problems. You need to solve problems you're interested in. I don't want to write what the factorial of like 6 is for the 10 millionth time. That's boring. I'm not saying math is boring, but that writing a factorial function is pretty boring. Can it be fundamental to you learning what programming looks like? Yes, but it's not the best way to learn programming, in my opinion. Throwing yourself at coding challenges. Make challenges for you that are actually relevant to you, like that. I have another programmer friend who... she does a Legend of Zelda speedrun, or not speedruns, but randomizers, and sometimes she runs into bugs or glitches with the randomizer. So she writes scripts to tell her which spoilers will get her back on track, or will fix the randomizer. So, yeah. Find fun problems that you actually want to solve, or projects you actually want to write, and that'll make your programming experience way more enjoyable. I'm doing some text operation stuff with save serialization. Ooh, save serialization is pretty fun, yes. Working with binary I think is fascinating. Converting to, converting from, how to store everything, what sizes you want, what formats you need. Are you gonna have like a dynamic size where you have to say, okay, what the size of the next chunk is gonna be and read all that in? Like, that's a lot of fun. I like that. I remember having to parse the MIDI save file format because I wanted to write a MIDI player. I did it in Java for whatever reason. And that's kind of what you have to do. You have to be able to read very dynamic file types. You circular referenced. Yep, that will happen a lot. Admittedly. Okay, so we're back to working on the game for a good hour or so. I had some notes from the last time I was working on my game. By the way, if you're working on a big project, always make sure you write in your to-do list notes from your previous run. That way when you come back to it, you know exactly where you left off. So we were working on the Skeleton Captain, which rides a horse and charges at you, and also places down a flag that can buff units. So this flag was a bit problematic for us for a couple of reasons. So we're going to be working on making that a little better today. We got it to work, but not exactly the way we intended, maybe with a couple bugs. The first thing I want to address is this flag pointer. We ended up using a raw pointer because standard shared pointer, we couldn't... The way I wrote this spawn monster function, unfortunately, it just returns a direct reference to a shared pointer going into a list. So unfortunately, because we return the reference directly, we don't actually have access to the shared pointer instance to grab or create another shared pointer, which is fine. I'm not worried about that. But what I realized was that monsters, when they're created, make a weak pointer of themselves inside of themselves. And that's what we need to grab. So instead of doing what I did here, which is store a raw pointer, we're actually going to do, after we spawn the monster, we're going to grab the weak pointer. So we literally have a function called getWeakPointer. I totally forgot about this. So the solution I tried last Friday was I created a new standard shared pointer here. And that's where you fuck up. Because standard shared pointer, if you have more than one managing the same exact pointer, then when this ref count expires, because it's only relevant in this monster, it's going to delete the monster, which is still needed in another table, the global monster list. So that's where I messed up. So this time we're addressing that. That's why I had issues and why we had memory corruption the last time. So I'm turning this into a weak pointer instead, I have decided. So this is no longer a thing. And this is going to be a blank standard weak pointer of a monster. By default, it will be pointing to nothing, which means it will be null. and weak pointers can be null, so we will be aware of that when we go here. We have a not flag here, which is currently for a weak pointer, so we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to anycast it to this. So when I made this, it was an any type. It's supposed to address any situation where I have custom types and I don't want to have to create all these custom macros for all these types. So instead we just have an any type. That's what this macro even does in the first place. So we have to anycast anything that uses that any macro, like so. After that, we can then check, okay, if flag is expired, which means there's no valid pointer in it, or if it's not expired, then we have to create our temporary shared pointer and check if it's dead or not. And that's that. MIDI parsing sounds cool. I think a team I worked with used MIDIs to place notes for gameplay. Yeah, I had a similar issue, or a similar desire, where it was supposed to be like a game jam idea. I was originally going to use it for a game jam, but it turned out to be more of a experiment anyway on my part, because I ended up having a lot of problems with the MIDI file parser. I didn't realize how complicated it was. God. But it was satisfying to hear the dings and bells and whistles at the end of it all. So yes, this should fix and address that issue. So I'm just gonna go ahead and build this and run it. It should just take a minute because all we did was change this. It shouldn't take very long at all. And we will try it. Also, I think I have the game's background music still on, so I'm going to have to turn that down once the game starts. Speaking of background music, today we're going to add the Chapter 4 stage music into the game officially, because it's not in yet, and I would like it to be as I work on the Chapter 4 stages. And I guess we can listen to it. It's kind of fun. The music composer for this game is actually one of the rhythm game players I met here where I live, so he's actually local and we work together, so that's awesome. He was actually the composer for another game that I was following for a while called Swapette Showdown, so I knew him before he knew me. Small world. It's kind of cool. Oh, I need my controller. I think it's on that desk. Hold on, I'll go get it. There. So, controller. Trying to play this game with nails on a keyboard is nigh impossible. Alright. So, no crashes. There's the flag. Now the key is when another flag gets placed. That is the real test, because it's going to produce on another pointer, so there we go. Places another flag. So, that's the simpler solution. That should have been done earlier, was we have a weak pointer to it instead. That way we'd have no memory corruption, and we're still pointing to that flag, and only when every other flag is dead. So that's the first issue addressed. We use weak pointers instead. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to make it so flags are not buffing other flags. You might have noticed when it was placed down it was red colored. It's not actually supposed to be red colored. If it's red colored, it means it has the haste buff. But the flag is supposed to give the haste buff to other people, not give it to itself. So we can fix that by going in here and adjusting the filter for what the flag looks for. So not only can it not buff other skeleton captains or bosses, but it also needs to not be able to buff any monster, any flags itself. So we can just say anything with the skeleton captain flag strategy, which is what this one's called, I believe. should not be buffed. We can double check that by looking at the run strategy file. And looking at Skeleton Captain flag initialized, it's called, yes, anything with the Skeleton Captain flag monster strategy should not be included in the list of things that the flag is allowed to buff, on top of it not being a Skeleton Captain or a boss. So moving on, the flag falling animation. I wanted the flag to start in the air and fall down to the ground. Rather quickly, I will say, but not be directly on the ground and just poof, appeared. So we're going to make it so when this thing gets spawned by the captain, we're actually going to set its Z position. So we will do that right away by saying flag pointer. We do have to anycast it if we choose to use it, so, well, we already have it here, so flag lock Z. We're going to do set Z, and we'll set it to 30. I think 30 is high enough in the air for it to fall down and make it look like it's coming from the top. Another thing I want to add is the chapter 4 stage music. Like I said, it's kind of buried in a bunch of messages, so it may take me a second to go look for it. Okay, I think I got it. And I will also be right back. Quick bathroom break. Alrighty. So I've downloaded the file. So now y'all get to see how we add a music file to the levels of the game. So here it is. It's called Undead Swamp. Oh wait, this is the boss. Hold on, where's the actual stage theme? Not the boss song. Here it is. Alright, this one. This one's called Undead Swamp. and that's the file we are interested in. Okay. Do I use multiple workspaces? No, I just have 3 ultra wide monitors. So the way I have it set up on my stream is when I mouse over to another section of one of my monitors, it will just swap to there. So I have the one back here. This one I usually just leave with like the build progress. And then I have screens that divide up my all my tabs. So I can look at multiple things at once, program on different sides. Yeah, it's just like, it's surrounding me, all around me. It's really cool. I've also played Elite Dangerous with them. It looks sick. It makes space travel super fun. Okay. So... Hi, another monitor for chat. Yeah, just have chat sitting in the background over there, behind me. I'll be all the way surrounded with screens. Okay, so music. So here's all the music for the game, if it will load this folder. Let's see. So right now, it's not in here, so I'm gonna go ahead and paste this Undead Swamp music. Yeah, just imagine. I gotta put it up in like a space tower or something, and then gotta take an elevator up to the center, and then I'll have my little, like, what do you call it? I'll be in like a... I'm basically in a control tower. I didn't watch Digimon, unfortunately, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. Sorry. Alright, so in regards to music, all the music for all the stages are stored inside of the levels file. So that's over here. Or, no, BGM. There we go. So every song track is not usually just one song, actually. Now, sometimes we combine them, but some songs actually have multiple parts, and they all play at the same time to seamlessly sound like one music. It's like conducting an orchestra. So then I can take each part and make some parts louder, some parts softer. So during certain parts of the game, we might emphasize certain notes or certain instruments. So that's just a fun feature we have. But for right now, for simplicity, we made it so it's just one entire track combined. We might later split it up. We usually start with one and then split it up into instruments as we see fit. So this is called the Undead Swamp. And it's going to be referencing this file. AIL_undeadswamp.ogg. And we'll just start with the default volume, 70%, and go from there. So the next thing I have to do is actually say that this track will be used in certain levels. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up my tiled project and open up every level, every normal stage in World 4. Then I'm gonna go over to the properties of the map, and under audio event, I need to add in, or not audio event, background music. I need to add in an entry for the Undead Swamp. So I'm gonna go to the custom types editor, go to BGM, and I'm just gonna add in Undead_swamp, which is the key I used when I was creating it in the BGM file. So now that's an option, I can go back here to background music and just go ahead and select it as the stage music for this stage. And I can do the same for the rest of the levels. So 4-2, Undead Swamp, 4-3, Undead Swamp, and so on and so forth. lot of these things we tried to keep as simple as possible. Naturally, when designing the game, I don't want there to be any processes that I can keep simple. I want to keep simple. There should be no, what do you call it? Let me close all the tabs because this is slowing down a lot. There should be as little, what would you call it? Friction as possible when doing something. If I find any process of trying to create a level or trying to add a monster or anything, or even programming like AI to be too difficult, I have to figure out a solution to make it easier because I have to do this a lot. So I have to add new things all the time. It can't be hard to add one little thing every time to add, like you would think, how hard is it to add music to a level? It's like, it shouldn't be that hard, right? Of course, folks don't know what the behind-the-scenes code looks like for any game, so they can't just simply be like, oh, it should be easy to just change this one, change the cooldown of this ability from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. Well, for the developer, it's like, okay, where is that data located? How do I find it? Are there any bugs if I change it? Is it going to cause problems, right? From the development side of things get trickier. Okay, I'm going to pause the background music because I'm going to enable the background music for my game for a minute. Just take a quick listen. Because I haven't heard this in a long time, so we'll see. Man, I have really good ideas. I should get paid for them. Uh-oh. Exception. What do we got? BGM load. Oh, I have to redo the game pack because it's not in the game pack. Every time I update the assets, they get encrypted in this game pack. So every time I want to add a new thing to it, it has to get re-encrypted. So I just have to delete it and let it recreate it. Because this is what I distribute to the players. They don't have access to the individual files, so that's what happens there. I'm just gonna listen real quick. Or maybe I have to play because things are gonna spawn, huh? Oh. Does it not exist yet? Oh, I guess it doesn't exist yet. It exists on the next frame. I think. Is that right? If we anycast this, and then we set it to something new, the flag equals the old... Oh, the flag is the old pointer. It has to be the new pointer. Yeah, so do that again. Just call it new flag, I guess. New flag. I wonder why I didn't... Oh, because I didn't have set Z before. That's why. I'm like, I wonder why I didn't do it before, but it's clear now. It's just I didn't do anything with the pointer, so it would be valid on other frames, but I need to cast this flag, the new flag pointer to it, not the old not use the old flag pointer, which doesn't even exist yet. But yeah, my point being is that if something sounds like it should be simple, a simple change, it probably is, assuming we designed it right. If something that sounds simple is not simple to tweak in the game, then we have to design a better system to make that easy. Oh, it's still doing it. Oh, I didn't change it to new flag. I'm still using old flag. Okay. One more time. I promise I know what I'm doing, guys. I promise. Hello? Okay, it's still not working. What? That's insane. Alright, hold on. So this weak pointer doesn't actually exist yet? Okay, let me think. So spawn monster puts in monsters to be spawned and makes a shared pointer to a monster that exists, but the weak pointer doesn't get set until after? Maybe that's the issue. Let me go look at this, because I think that is the case. Hey, I've got a question. I basically learned JavaScript and TypeScript, and I'm about to learn C++. Do you have any tips? Yes. The first tip is go and learn from this website called learncpp.com if you weren't already planning to do so, because this website gives you a lot of best practices when you're learning, and I really like that. Some of it is like, okay, if you know JavaScript and TypeScript, obviously like variable assignment and functions are not going to be new to you, but you have to see them in C++ to be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But it's going to talk a lot about it. It's like, think of this like a textbook, kind of. It's written to be like that. It's like a textbook almost, where it's like, okay, here's how you do a function, here's the caveats about it, like warning, be careful of these things, here's other things to do, best practices, blah blah blah. And it teaches you like basically everything you want. So I recommend this. If you weren't already planning to use something to learn C++ with, I recommend this. I also recommend, if you want something more like game designy, to just have a peek at the One Lone Coder channel. I'm kind of a shill for it, but the One Lone Coder... Oh, maybe I should get out of my studio. The One Lone Coder channel... This is a guy who made the OLC Pixel game engine, which is what I use for my game. But he has a lot of like programming videos, so... If you want to learn and see C++, he's kind of got you covered in that regard too. Find other content creators too that might specialize in stuff you're interested in. You might not be interested in games. OLC Pixel Game Engine does lean a little more towards games, but also it's just a tool that's easy to build things on screen. Yes. Choose a problem that you are interested in learning. Like earlier today, I was running into an issue with my girlfriend and I playing an Archipelago multi-world game randomizer, and our save file did not save, but we had the logs of everything we did, so we were able to parse that log to restore the game to its original state. So find interesting problems like that to solve to help you along the way too. Gives you like practice problems, I guess, that you are interested. Have ideas for, oh, I want to eventually be able to build X or Y. Since you have JavaScript experience already, you already know like, oh, with programming, this is what's possible, this is what I can do, and try to make equivalent versions of them in C++. See how far you can get, see where you get stuck. That's the things you have to research. Also for C++, if you need like a handy idea of what you can do, then CPP-Ref will tell you that. CPP-Reference is for like intermediate and advanced C++ programmers, in that it will tell you very specifically what the C++ language offers. Let's say, for example, you see a piece of code, like maybe I'm using it, and you're like, oh, what's standard format? You can search for standard format on cppreference.com, and it will go into detail about what are its constructors, how it works, where it comes from, what it's for, code examples of how to use standard format. Same with any other function in the C++ standard library. It will tell you all these things. So you might not use this yet because it's very, very technical, but this is good to have for the future. CPP reference. But learncpp.com is kind of your go-to, this is how I start learning. In my opinion, I really like how it's written. You could probably find other websites too, but highly recommended. I review it a lot. So back to this. I was talking about how monsters to be spawned has an interesting behavior in that the weak pointer gets assigned right here. This is what I was mentioning, is this weak pointer is actually not valid immediately. And that's a problem, because we want to use it immediately. So how do we fix this? Can we fix it? I wonder, because we moved this, can we just assign it earlier? What's stopping us from assigning it earlier, right? Will it break things if we assign it earlier? I don't think so. So let's try this. Because this shared pointer gets moved around in this list, I'm going to immediately assign the new monster's weak pointer in this function instead. New monster weak pointer equals us. It should be, well, hold on. M originally came from the monster coming out of this, right? What is M? M is iterating through all monsters to be spawned. So it was already in here, but this new monster is right here. So new monster weak pointer equals new monster. At least it should be, because it's a shared pointer. It should just be pointing to itself, really. I don't see why it's not. So yeah, like the line here before was literally just to point, yeah, it points it to itself. So that's the whole point of it in the first place. Let's give it a shot. Yeah, I wish you good luck in learning C++. It is considered a pretty difficult language, so you're pretty brave to step up for the challenge, and I hope you do well. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always ask me too. I've been doing C++ programming for about 6 years, and I'm making a giant game with it, so I've learned a lot of problems with it as well, so that's fun. Alright, I think this will resolve it, because now our weak pointer is valid immediately instead of later. But I don't know why I would have waited till later to make it validated. So I don't know. So there's our flag. It no longer buffs itself, which is good. We should also see another one pop up in a little bit here, but you can see the music's going. Chapter 4 stage music. I'm just gonna run around. Just imagine gameplay. That doesn't look right. 4-1? Wait, no. That we need... God, tile sets get confusing. We need... this one. There we go. Sometimes I notice small tiling errors because my my game designer, he usually is the one making these levels, so since he has to do so much, I think he just gets mapping fatigue and then like misses a tile or two every once in a while. It's kind of fun to spot them sometimes. But yeah, that's the music added to Chapter 4 stages because we needed that. So these are all done. This is what I had in store before I got to anything new today. So again, keeping a to-do list with everything you plan to work on is a good idea if you're going into a new day. And this project is very large, so it's important to keep track of that kind of stuff. So let's summarize everything we did in our Git staging here. So removed ability for flags to buff themselves. So that's no longer legal. Flag, okay, we didn't see how the flag fell from the sky. I kind of want to see that in real time. So we're going to actually jump back in and we're going to try and be next to one so we can watch it actually happen, because I didn't get to see it. Since the first monsters spawn off screen, we don't really get an opportunity to see that, so I'll keep both monsters alive so we can see it a second time. And hopefully it looks okay. So I'm just gonna delete this flag so it doesn't... Okay. That way it has the capability of spawning a new one. I'm gonna drag both of them over here. Okay, cool. So we saw it kind of like float down a little bit, and that's kind of what I was going for. I think I want to put it a little higher. Like, I want it to fall faster and start a little higher in the sky. So it wasn't as dramatic as I would have liked. So I'm going to double the fall speed. And really we should make this a property in the config file, but I'm just going to hard code it for now. And we'll spawn it 60 units above the top of the... 60 units high instead. Now, it's not a 3D game, it just simulates the Z-axis. Things in the sky spawn further up from their normal position, and they have a shadow casted at the ground, indicating where they are on the floor. So, typical 2D illusion of three dimensions with, like, an overhead view. So that's why there's a Z variable in the first place. Things that are higher up in the sky, also players cannot hit by default. So, unless you're basically matching in Z, you can't hit whatever's in the sky. Okay. You can see the flag buffs the monster while it's very close to it, making it very hard to avoid. Okay, I didn't get to see that one, so I'll do it one more time. Okay, I like that a lot better. It looks very smooth, and it comes from, it's like kind of floating down, so I like that. Also, the music's a bop. Kudos to my music composer. Okay. So, removed ability for flags to buff themselves. Flags spawn in the air and fall. Hello? In the air and fall. Added Chapter 4 stage music. 2 stages. And this is release build. 12388. Finally, I'm also gonna run the unit tests now because we're ready to merge this branch into master. We're done with the skeleton captain as a whole. I am happy with its behavior for the time being. Obviously, the graphics need to be updated once we get our pixel artist to update that. And I can add those later. But I'm going to run our unit tests real quick in the background while I begin preparation for the next monster. How long have you been working on that project? Today is day 435. So over the last 3-ish years, I've spent about a little over a year of that time doing development. So yeah, about, you could say roughly every other day for the last 3 years. If we look back on commits, if I go to like the last page, yeah, these are from June 11th in 2023 is when I started seriously committing source code to the game. So yeah. It's actually gonna approach it's a little less than 3 years, but it's an estimate. It's very close. (2023) June 11th. Yeah, more or less. Okay, so what are we working on next? If we go back to our monster spec, that's the boss. That's not what we're looking for. Chapter 4. Monsters. Oh, you're over here. Okay. So the skeleton fire mage is our next monster of interest. So mage behaviors. They spawn with 0 mana. They recover 5 mana every second. Every second, they look up their ability list and cast an ability with a certain probability. The mage tries to move to an area that is 700 to 900 range away from the player and wanders around randomly in this area. If the mage is inside the effect area of a skeleton captain flag, it tries to stay there as long as the 700 to 900 range can be maintained. Ability casts have a higher priority than movement. So 2 abilities for the Fire Mage, Meteor and Firebolt. Meteor takes 1.5 seconds to cast, has a 300 range, deals 2 times attack, leaving a fire field for 4 seconds, dealing 30% of attack per second. So very similar to the Meteor of the Wizard. So we'll probably steal a lot of code from the player's Meteor. And finally, Firebolt, 1 second cast time, deals 100% attack on collision. Never would have thought it takes this long to code a game. Oh yeah, you'd be surprised. It's very deceiving. So the prototype or concept for the game, like the very first few builds where I could have a player moving around a monster and the ability to attack and like kill things, 2 weeks. which is fair. It's like get them moving around on a map, make a monster, make the player have some abilities, attack. 2 weeks. Where does the extra 3 years come from? Well, it's once you realize, oh, I have to intelligently connect player abilities. I have to add in items. I didn't think about the items, right? I have to add in a music system. I have to add in storylines, like a story system, basically a visual novel system in the game. I have to add in the ability to equip things. Equips change stats. How do they interact with the stats? How do I define the stats? Items, consumables. How do the consumables change my stats? How do they heal me? How do they hurt me? How do I do this without having to write a bunch of code every time, like every item, right? So like, we look at like, you can just look at our consumables, right? Just as an example here. This isn't it. Consumables. It's like you can start to see I have all these files of like, oh, where does everything live? Where's all the data? Why isn't any of oh, it's because I'm in the other project. Anyways, items. Items, please. There. So like, how do we define all this? So like every item has an HP restore property, an MP restore property, a cooldown time, a cast time, how much it sells for, what sound plays when you use it. It's like you have to end up defining all these. What crafting recipes exist for these items? Some have item scripts. They buff in different ways. They provide like an attack percent buff or a defense percent buff. HP percent restore. How much HP? It's like, it starts getting very complicated very fast. Here's a bomb. The bomb has certain variables in it, like the damage multiplier, the explosion sound effect, the cast size, cast range. The Molotov is even more crazy. It has a tick rate, a tick-based damage, how long it lingers for, how large the ring is, like what image the ring produces. It gets insane what you have to do for this stuff. I do not actually. I'm a hobby programmer. I'm just self-taught, but it's been a lot of fun. Also, we have unit tests for the game. So in programmer world, you have unit tests because you want to make sure your game still runs when you change something very major, like we moved that line of code that defines the weak pointer for all monsters to an entirely different place. If it breaks something important, we need to know about it, and unit tests can detect that. So unit tests is like hiring a bunch of people, like each one of these check marks would be one person, and I'm telling them, all right, you are going to test for this every single time I build my game. That's what unit test does. And you write enough of these, and you can say with pretty good confidence that your game is still working correctly, because every one of these is testing something in your game for you. So I don't have to go in and... It's like, imagine if every time I change something in my game, I now have to go through and be like, okay, I'm going to go through this level, I'm going to go and do this story, I'm going to test this class and use this ability with this accessory and this equipment. And then you do that for every single class, you do that for every ability, you go and enchant every ring and see if it still works. Yeah. It costs some development time, but then it saves you a lot of development time later when, if one of these ends up being a red X, I could be like, oh, something's broken now. It was working before. Now I've caught a bug that I would have missed if I just submitted my code, and then later somebody playing my game is like, hey, this boss is broken. I'm like, why is the boss broken? I didn't do anything. And then I realized that I've like moved a piece of code that boss needed. So yeah, game dev is fun. It is hard, but it's also very fun. So anyways, Let's get a new branch for the Skeleton Fire Mage. Ready? I guess we can't do it quite yet. We can do it on the outside. Let's update the master branch, actually, because since I submitted this code, I need to do another pull request. We're going from Skeleton Captain into Master. So we're going to do that, and we're just going to get that started. Basically, I can't... Oh, we also have to merge with Master, which is fair. Auto-merged. And then we submit this. It makes sure the web build works. My game also runs on the web, so every time I submit a build, it tries to build the game for the web. And if that fails, then, well, we have to fix it for the web too, which is a whole nother can of worms. Because sometimes if something works on Windows but doesn't work on Linux or Mac or the web, then there's some inconsistent behavior with like how the compiler resolves. Usually it's undefined behavior. Undefined behavior is the concept of this code is normally not used for anything, and it can behave however it wants. If something in your code relies on the undefined behavior to work a certain way, then it'll work differently on another computer, and that's a no-go. That means your game doesn't behave consistently across every system, which is a huge problem. Programmer world is very, very complex with things like this. So you have to be very careful not to rely on or use undefined behaviors. And the C++ compilers, their specs are very strict about what is undefined behavior. It tells you exactly how you would trigger it and how to avoid it. That's actually what that site, LearnCPP, tries to teach you too. It's like, don't do this, this is undefined behavior, do this instead. Yeah. So, Skeleton Fire Mage. Let's get some placeholder graphics going. Oh, I might have to actually leave very soon. It's it's almost that time. But yeah, we can get this started. I think tests are almost finished. Yes. Right, just the last few here, testing the player, making sure the player still works correctly. That is very important. I know we didn't do too much on my game specifically today, but we had to solve another little problem that arose for one reason or another, the archipelago thing. So I'm glad we got that. It got a chance for others to see when, how, and what I do to create these little small projects I need whenever I run into a problem that can be solved using automation or programming. It can be, when you know how to program, it can be very helpful for problems like that that arise. Come on, Test Explorer, we're done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to at least set up the branch for today, and then we'll get started next time. So Skeleton Fire Mage branch. And with the mages, they have a new mana mechanic. So we do get to implement a new mechanic for our game. Yay! It's a small one, and it's only for monsters, but we know we're going to be implementing a mana mechanic. So the first thing I will do is I will go into the monster header file and just establish a brand new parameter called mana. So we're going to go to the private members. You can see there's many things. Monsters are very, very, very complicated beings with tons and tons of data. Yeah, it's wild. But we're going to add in at the bottom here Or maybe a little higher. I feel like it should be with the health. I'll be completely for real. And this isn't a struct, right? Yeah, it shouldn't be. There's no way it should be. So we're gonna add in mana is an integer. MP. And I know we're gonna have to keep track of a mana timer. We have to know when the mana recovery occurs. So we know we're gonna have a timer for that. I know for HP we have some kind of like... Well, actually for monsters we don't have an HP recovery timer. But we know we're gonna have a mana recovery timer. So do we just put that in here, knowing that's gonna happen? I think so. I'm gonna put it right here. This is the mana recovery timer. And if we know we have HP, I'm also going to assign these default values. It's usually a good idea to. I used to not do it, but it's very important to assign default values. That way they're initialized properly. Although, primitive types get auto default assigned. But I like to do it anyway. Just more C++ knowledge. So, mana recovery timer, we're going to need that. We also need to know what the max mana is. So surely if we store the HP, we also store the max HP somewhere. Where do we grab that? Ah, it's in stat bonuses. Okay, so we have a stat bonuses structure. So this is what I mean by sometimes games can get complicated, is your stat structures could be buried inside other systems that get really complex. So it's part of an item attribute. So we're going to go to the item stats, and we're going to see if mana is a thing. I think it should be. Yes. So mana is a thing. I figured as much. If health is a thing, so is mana. And we're going to rely on that stat for the maximum health. So the way we would do this is, I believe in the constructor, you would assign it. So right here, when a monster is constructed, their health is assigned to whatever their health value originally is. Similarly, we're going to assign the mana attribute to whatever the current mana is. This way we know what the total mana is. We're also making a new function called getMana. A getter is going to retrieve it for us. So now we'll likewise make a very similar mirrored function for getMana and getMaxMana. And with those two functions, we'll at least know how much mana we have for this monster. So again, we'll copy paste. And it's going to be MP. So now we have the attribute MP inside of monsters. We have to make it actually work. So the timer, every monster, if they have an MP value, they also have a recovery time. Now the MP recovery time has to be defined inside the monster's stats. So we're going to now go to the monsters database, and we're going to figure out how to add this in here. So, for example, the Skeleton Fire Mage, which we're about to add an entry for, is going to have mana. That also means it needs to have a mana recovery time, so it's not sitting here with no mana after like one cast. So, Skeleton Fire Mage. Let's fill in the details now. So according to the spec, Skeleton Fire Mages have 600 HP. They have an attack of 43. They have a move speed of 80%, a size of 90%, and give 49 XP on death. They start with 0 mana and will recover. So the mana recovery rate is the important part. So we're going to call this MP recovery. And we're just going to put a value here. By default, it says here we recover 5 mana per second. So I'm just going to write that. My my config parser actually ignores any extraneous like letters after these numbers. So this is actually a valid syntax for this config file. We can just say 5, you can put like any unit here. Like you can do percent signs, MP per second. It's just a very human friendly format so that we know exactly what we're writing here. So the MP recovery is 5 MP per second, which is fine. And we also need to provide an ability list because this is a mage who's going to have to utilize them. So I think the way I'll do this is for casters, we'll have the abilities located in a separate structure, and you just specify the names of that structure. Or alternatively, we just say abilities equals and make a written list here. So we have like meteor, comma, firebolt. That means we're gonna have to make an ability system for monsters in that we define these abilities, then we have to say, okay, what do you do if you have these abilities? Do we also want to provide a percentage? Let's see. Cast an ability with a certain probability. Oh, this is the percent probability. So on top of these abilities existing, they have a mana cost, which I think is separate from the cast percentage. And now I wonder why it's 60%, 10%, and not, it doesn't equal 100%, right? So why is that? Every second does one of these things with the probability. Okay, so there's a chance it does nothing. I guess that's fair. So we're gonna write those down. We're gonna say meteor. Okay, this makes me want to favor the more list-looking structure then. Right? Because then we can just say meteor, we say equals 50 mana, comma, 60% chance. And then same with firebolt. Firebolt equals 20 mana cost, because I assume different monsters, it might be the same ability, but different numbers. 10% chance. And we'll put in the comments here, we'll just say, ability name equals mana cost, and I guess I'll put MP here. 50 MP, 20 MP, comma, percent chance to cast. Every second. Yeah, that way we know exactly what we're writing here. So I think this is the layout or foundation of what we're going to be doing. And from here, we're going to actually build out this list and read it. So we'll do all the config parsing tomorrow then. That's going to be our objective. To read in this new MP recovery stat, read in an MP line if necessary, although in our case we're just keeping the MP at 0. I guess there should be a max MP, right? Let me see. Recover 5 mana per second. It doesn't say anything about max MP. Do they just go on forever? Interesting. There's no max MP. You just regain mana. Forever and ever. And that's fine. That's not a problem, actually. I just find that fascinating. Okay. Well, I'll leave it like that then, because we'll work on it more tomorrow. The spec doesn't say so, so I don't do it. I take the spec very literally, and my game designer knows this, and he usually designs with that intent in mind. Whatever he writes, this is exactly what he wants. He's looked at the numbers, he's decided this is what I want, and I've taken it and I interpret it literally. If there's no max mana cap, there isn't. I think the idea is you will always be burning these most of the time anyways. I think on average, the mage will run out of mana more often than not. So there's no get max mana function. I can delete that. Which means we don't have to track max mana. we just have an MP stat just on us all the time, and we use that. Okay, I'm ready to call it here. I'm gonna have to go for today, but for all of you that have tuned in today, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and we'll see you all next time. So, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.